When a woman disrespects you, she's making a bet. She assumes you'll still be around tomorrow, still answering her calls, still orbiting her world as if nothing happened. In her mind, you're too attached, too invested, and too afraid to lose her. That's why she feels safe crossing the line. But here's the truth: a man who understands his worth doesn't fight for a chair at a table where his presence is ignored. He doesn't beg for a seat. He flips the entire table. He doesn't ask permission, he doesn't give warnings, and he doesn't hand her the closure she thinks she deserves. Instead of chasing apologies or second chances, he invests all of his energy into becoming the man she can never reach again. And let's be clear, this isn't about playing games or trying to spark jealousy. It's about living the core Stoic principle: you control your mind, you control your actions, and nothing else. Once you grasp that you don't need to explain, negotiate, or justify your standards, everything changes. You stop reacting to disrespect and start building a life where respect is the baseline. That's what this lesson is about. Today, I'll share with you 5 silent moves that make a woman regret ever disrespecting you. These moves don't require shouting, begging, or proving anything. They don't just shift the balance of power, they remove her from the equation completely when you master them. You'll no longer be a man fighting for respect from one woman. You'll be the man who commands respect everywhere, from everyone. Here's the beauty: you don't need her validation for this to work. The transformation is for you. The peace is for you. The discipline is for you. So pay attention. And before we dive in, let me ask, have you ever stayed too long with someone who didn't respect you? If so, you'll want to take notes. Silent move number 1, cut off access without warning. When a woman disrespects you, she has already made a decision about your worth. If you argue against that decision, all you do is reinforce it. In her eyes, you're now a man willing to fight for a place in her world even after she's shown through her actions that she doesn't value you. So instead of debating, you act. You remove yourself from her orbit completely. Not with a warning. Not with a dramatic announcement. Not with a "this is the last straw" speech. You cut off access without explanation. Not as a childish tantrum or a manipulative game, but as a principle. As a recalibration of the privilege she once had: access to your presence, your attention, your time, your voice, and your energy. Here's why this works: until now, she's likely built her behavior on a single assumption: no matter what she says or does, you'll still be there. You'll still answer the phone. You'll still reply to her messages. You'll still be waiting in the background, ready to catch her if she falls. You became her safety net, the net she didn't earn. But when you cut that net, suddenly, without warning, she falls into a vacuum she never prepared for. That silence forces her to replay everything: the last days, the last weeks, every conversation. She scans them like a detective, wondering, when did he change? When did he stop being available? When did he disappear? And that confusion is the birthplace of regret. Not because you explained yourself, not because you raised your voice, but because you left no explanation at all. Now, here's where most men fail. They turn their exit into a performance. They storm out, saying, "You'll regret this. I'm not coming back." And in doing so, they hand her a gift, the gift of knowing she still has their emotional energy. But the man who cuts off access silently gives nothing away. No scene, no outburst, no final speech. Just absence. Just silence. And with it comes the heavy realization: She lost something she thought would always be there. This move only works if you execute it fully. That means no half measures. You don't block her number, then secretly check her social media. You don't unfollow her but still watch her stories. You don't leave a secret back channel just in case. Because every breadcrumb you leave is a thread she can tug on to keep you in her orbit. And if she can still tug at your presence, she still owns a piece of you. So the cut has to be complete. Delete her number. Block or mute her on every platform. Refuse to acknowledge her in group settings. And most importantly, do all of this without announcing it. Don't say, "I'm blocking you." Don't try to show her what you're doing. Just vanish. Because a man who truly cuts off access isn't performing for her reaction. He's enforcing reality. And the reality is simple: disrespect has a cost, the cost is losing you. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to craft a perfect speech or try to make her feel guilty. The sudden absence of your attention carries its own weight. It's heavier than any lecture. It's colder than any insult. And it cannot be ignored. But here's the hardest part: once you cut her off, a part of you will want to check. You'll want to see if she noticed, if she's reaching out, if she regrets it yet. That urge is the test. And Stoic discipline demands you resist it. Because the moment you send even the smallest signal, you weaken the power of your silence. So what do you do with that energy? You redirect it. Instantly. Into the gym, your business, your skills, your circle. Because if you cut her off but sit alone in your room thinking about her, you haven't really cut her off. By the time she fully realizes your absence, you'll have built so much momentum that she couldn't catch up even if she tried. That's the ultimate win. Not that you made her regret it, but that you built a version of yourself who would never tolerate that kind of disrespect in the first place. You became the man who doesn't need to announce his standards. He simply lives them. Silent move number 2, level up quietly. Walking away from a woman who disrespected you is powerful, but it comes with a dangerous trap. Most men fall right into it without realizing. They sit in silence, stewing in bitterness. They replay conversations in their heads, imagining different endings, hoping anger will somehow bring closure. But that's exactly what she expects. She assumes you'll keep thinking about her. She assumes you'll talk about her with your friends. She assumes you'll lurk on her social media, watching her posts while your life stays frozen. In her mind, your story ended the moment she dismissed you. But the man who flips the script knows better. He understands the most devastating form of closure isn't a speech, or an explanation, or even a goodbye. It's transformation. It's becoming so far ahead in life that when she hears your name again, she doesn't even recognize the man you've become. And here's the secret: this transformation must be silent. You don't post every workout. You don't broadcast every achievement. You don't move like a man desperate for attention. Because the second you try to prove yourself to her or to the world, you've already lost the essence of growth. Real progress doesn't need applause. Real progress speaks in silence. That silence is your camouflage. It shields you. It protects your progress. It ensures she has no idea what you're building. Then, when months pass and you return to the world transformed, the gap between who you are and who she thought you'd be becomes undeniable. So wide. So shocking. That it forces her to rethink everything she believed about you. But make no mistake, this upgrade can't be surface level. It has to be full spectrum. health, finances, mindset, appearance, presence. If you only improve in one area, she can dismiss it as luck, a phase, or a trick. But when everything changes, when the man who once reacted to her disrespect is now sharper, leaner, wealthier, calmer, more respected, and fully in control, she can't ignore it. Even if pride won't let her admit it out loud, deep down, she knows, she underestimated you. But here's the point you must never forget, this isn't about making her crawl back. It's about becoming the man who never again attracts that kind of disrespect in the first place. Because the man who levels up his entire life doesn't chase. He doesn't wait. He doesn't beg. He builds. And that kind of growth requires a discipline most men will never touch. It means replacing habits that kept you stagnant with habits that compound. Waking up earlier than you want to. Lifting heavier than you thought possible. Studying subjects you once avoided. Rejecting distractions that used to control you. And you don't do this for a month. You don't do it for show. You live it as a permanent lifestyle. And when you live this way, everything changes. Your actions reflect standards she cannot match. Your results speak louder than any speech. Her regret is no longer about simply losing you, it's about realizing she misjudged a man. And here's the irony, you don't even need to mention her name. You don't need to prove anything to mutual friends. You don't need to avoid her gaze if you cross paths. Your transformation itself is the loudest statement you'll ever make. But be careful, men who truly level up quietly aren't secretly hoping she notices. They're not playing a long game of revenge. They do it because they've realized the truth, the best revenge is indifference. The best revenge is living a life where her opinion carries no weight at all. And ironically, that's what makes her notice most. People are always most curious about what they can't control. So when she sees her disrespect didn't break you, when she sees it fueled a stronger, sharper, more powerful version of you, it rewrites the entire dynamic. She realizes what you understood the day you walked away, that you never needed her validation to win. You never needed her recognition to rise. All you ever needed was the discipline to disappear, transform, and return as a man she'd never believe you could become. That is the essence of leveling up quietly. It isn't loud. It isn't flashy. It isn't desperate. It's steady. Relentless. Unshakable. A man who builds silently doesn't just command respect from one woman, he commands respect from the world. Silent move number 3, stop explaining yourself. There comes a point in every man's journey where he discovers a hard truth, the more you explain yourself, the more power you lose. At first, it feels harmless. You want to be clear. You want her to understand your heart. You want people to see your perspective. But here's the reality, every time you explain your actions, your standards, or your decisions to someone who has already shown they don't respect you, you're not clarifying. You're negotiating your worth. And once you enter that negotiation, you've already given up leverage. Because the moment you start explaining, you hand them authority over your life. You give them the power to approve or disapprove of your choices. And that's the trap most men fall into. When a woman has disrespected you, your explanation becomes her playground. She can twist it, minimize it, or flip it so you question yourself. She can make you feel like you're overreacting, or worse, convince you to lower your standards so she can keep access to you without changing her own behavior. This is why men who know their value don't justify themselves. A man with direction doesn't need permission to walk his path. He doesn't need applause to take his next step. He just moves. Here's what usually happens. Once you walk away, stop calling, or redirect your energy, she'll try to pull you back with a question. It usually sounds like, "I just want to understand." But rarely is that question about understanding. It's about control. It's about pulling you back into her frame so your choices are once again tied to her reactions. And this is where most men crumble. They think if they just explain it clearly enough, she'll finally get it. But here's the truth, she doesn't need to get it. She needs to feel it. And feelings are delivered through actions, not words. The danger of explaining yourself is simple, it keeps you emotionally tied to her approval. It places her opinion above your direction. And the longer you live in that cycle, the further you drift from your own authority. So what do you do instead? You cut explanations short. If she asks why you're distant, why you stopped calling, why you haven't replied, you don't send a paragraph. You don't pour your heart out in a text. You don't write a speech about her disrespect. You simply say, "I've been focused on my own path." And you leave it there. This principle doesn't just apply to women. It applies everywhere. When a friend questions your new routine, when a family member doubts your business idea, when a colleague wonders why you don't hang out after work, you resist the urge to justify. You let your results speak. You let your progress answer the question. Because here's the truth, if someone respects you, they won't demand explanations for your choices. And if they don't respect you, no explanation will ever change their mind. In relationships, this principle is critical. Women aren't drawn to men who explain themselves into the ground. They're drawn to men who move with certainty. Men who trust their own judgment more than they need approval. Ironically, the less you explain, the more respect you command, even from the very people who once dismissed you. Why? Because now they see you're not a man who can be bent by pressure or guilt. You're immovable. You're calm. And for the woman who disrespected you, your silence speaks volumes. It shows you're not angry. You're not bitter. You've simply removed her from the conversation that is your life. She's no longer relevant. That kind of calm detachment carries more weight than any speech. It tells her you don't need her to understand, approve, or validate you. You've moved beyond that stage. When you live this way consistently, you stop chasing understanding from the wrong people. You stop wasting your energy proving your worth. Instead, you build a life that doesn't require defense, only demonstration. And that's when the power rushes back. You realize how much strength you once gave away, explaining, proving, trying to make someone see your side. And you vow never to hand that power over again. Because the man who moves without explanation is already free. He's not seeking permission. He's not seeking applause. He's not begging anyone to notice his worth. He knows his time is too valuable to spend convincing people who never truly valued it in the first place. And when you embrace that truth, your silence becomes your greatest weapon. Not the silence of weakness. Not avoidance. But silence born from strength. The silence of a man who no longer negotiates his value, because he already knows it. Silent move number 4, redirect energy to a better circle. Walking away from a woman who disrespected you feels like a victory. And in many ways, it is. You broke the cycle of begging for scraps of respect. You refuse to keep fighting for the bare minimum. But here's the uncomfortable truth, walking away isn't the finish line. It's only the starting point. What you do after walking away determines everything. That choice decides whether your decision becomes a true turning point, or just another repeated pattern. Too many men confuse leaving with transformation. They walk out of a toxic relationship, but instead of stepping into growth, they step into emptiness. No higher standards. No stronger influences. No challenging environment to sharpen them. And what happens when you don't replace what you lost? Life fills the vacuum. Always. If you don't redirect your energy into something higher, that empty space will drag you back into something lower, another distraction, another mediocre circle, another woman with the same disrespect wrapped in a different face. That's why redirecting your energy to a better circle isn't optional. It's essential. Because whether you want to admit it or not, your environment shapes you more than your willpower ever will. You can be disciplined. You can be ambitious. You can talk about respect and values all day. But if you surround yourself with people who normalize mediocrity, you'll sink back into it. Think about it. If your circle lives for small talk, weekend distractions, and good enough, then no matter how much you want greatness, their gravity will pull you back down. That's the trap so many men fall into. They cut ties with one disrespectful woman, but never cut ties with the culture that made them tolerate her in the first place. And that's why so many crawl back. Not because they truly miss her, but because they miss the familiarity. They miss the comfort zone. They never replaced the empty space with something higher, so their mind defaults back to what it knows. But the man who values himself knows cutting her off is just step one. Step two is building a new world around yourself. A circle where disrespect doesn't even exist in the culture. A circle where accountability, ambition, and growth are the air you breathe. This doesn't mean finding buddies to sit around and complain with. No. It means entering environments that force you to evolve. Rooms where your excuses sound ridiculous. Conversations where your small thinking is exposed. Circles where your wins are celebrated, but your comfort zone is constantly under attack. And when you step into those circles, everything shifts. Instead of wasting energy wondering if she's thinking about you, your focus is locked into your next business move, your next fitness goal, your next skill. That energy, once wasted chasing validation, is now fueling growth. And here's the powerful part, people can feel that shift. The woman you left behind will feel it, too. She'll see you're no longer orbiting the same conversations, the same spaces, the same broken cycles. She'll realize you didn't just leave her, you left the entire reality she still lives in. You stepped into a world she can't even enter. That's devastating to her. Not because you told her she lost a valuable man, but because she sees you thriving in a reality where she has no relevance, no influence, and no access. That's the kind of regret that cuts deep, and lasts forever. So here's the practical step, audit your circle immediately. Cut dead weight without hesitation. Remove people who normalize mediocrity, who drain your energy, who live only for cheap thrills. Seek out environments that challenge you, even if they make you uncomfortable. Especially if they make you uncomfortable. Because growth is never found in comfort. And once you find that new circle, invest in it. Pour into those relationships the same way you once poured energy into chasing her validation. Because the truth is, the energy you wasted on trying to prove your worth can now multiply when it's invested in people who sharpen you. Over time, something powerful happens. You stop thinking about proving anything to her at all. You stop rehearsing what you should have said. You stop replaying the past. Because the life you're building makes her opinion, her presence, even her memory completely irrelevant. That's when regret becomes permanent for her. Not because you reminded her of your value, but because your new reality shows it every single day. A reality she never belonged to, and never will. Silent move number 5, show zero emotional recoil. When someone disrespects you, especially a woman who once laughed at your jokes, leaned into your energy, and acted like you mattered, the instinct is to fire back. Your chest tightens, your jaw locks, your words sharpen. You want her to see the damage she caused. You want her to notice the scars she left on your pride. A part of you even believes that if she sees your pain, she'll finally understand. That if she notices your anger, she'll realize the depth of her betrayal. But here's the brutal truth: when you show her that emotional spike, she doesn't respect you more. She feels powerful. Your reaction confirms something in her mind: she still has a hold on you. If she can still provoke you, she still owns a piece of you. That's the hook. That's the leash. That's the quiet victory she holds over you. This is why the most devastating response isn't an explosion. It's silence wrapped in composure. Not apathy. Not cold indifference. But calm, steady, unshakable presence that makes it impossible for her to read you. This isn't about pretending not to care. It's about actually refusing to give someone the satisfaction of controlling your inner state. It's about mastering what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The ability to show zero emotional recoil is rare, because it demands separation between what you feel and how you react. It forces you to absorb disrespect, not with fire, but with stillness. Not because you're weak, but because you're untouchable. And when you operate at that level, you become the kind of man who cannot be baited into lowering himself just to prove a point. You rise above the drama. And ironically, that's what drives people who thrive on chaos insane. They need your reaction like oxygen. They survive by dragging you into their storm, by proving you can be shaken. But when you don't break, when you don't raise your voice, when you don't throw petty insults, when you don't even flinch, you send a message louder than words: you have no control here. For the woman who thought she could disrespect you and still keep your attention, this is the breaking point. Because when she realizes she can't even get a rise out of you, regret creeps in. It dawns on her, she no longer holds influence over your mind. That absence, your refusal to give her even a trace of emotional energy, becomes haunting. But here's where this lesson transcends relationships. Once you master zero emotional recoil in your personal life, you carry it everywhere. In business negotiations, where competitors try to rattle you with pressure. In family disputes, where old wounds are weaponized. In social dynamics, where manipulation hides behind emotional games. You discover that the less you react, the more control you gain. People can't play chess with a man who refuses to move out of impulse. They can't bait a man who won't pick up the hook. So how do you build this level of control? By slowing everything down. By practicing the pause. By training yourself to breathe before reacting. Instead of asking, "How do I feel right now?" you ask, "What outcome do I want right now?" That single shift rewires your entire approach. Because suddenly your energy isn't dictated by disrespect. It's guided by your standards, your mission, your vision. And when this becomes your default, your power compounds. For the woman who once disrespected you, this cuts the deepest. Because you didn't just walk away, you walked away without leaving her anything. No angry texts. No bitter insults. Not even a look of betrayal for her to replay in her mind. You exited without handing her a single emotional thread to pull on. And that kind of exit is unforgettable. It lingers in silence. It haunts not with fury, but with emptiness. Because there's nothing left for her to twist, nothing left to fight, nothing left to hold. That's the essence of showing zero emotional recoil. It's not a trick. It's not a game. It's the discipline of becoming a man so rooted in his own control, so anchored in his values, that no disrespect can shake his foundation. And when you reach that level, you unlock freedom. People lose their grip on you. Chaos loses its hold. You become unshakable. Here's the truth you must carry forward: life will keep presenting you with disrespect until you decide you've had enough. Until you carve a boundary so sharp it cannot be crossed. Until you stop giving second chances to people who would never grant you one. That's where strength is forged. Not in endless explanations. Not in begging to be understood. But in silence, discipline, and unshakable standards. When you refuse to let disrespect live in your presence, you transform from a man who can be manipulated into a man who is untouchable. And here's something most men miss: the world doesn't honor what you say. It honors what you tolerate. The moment you stop entertaining games, you step into a power that can't be stolen. You become the man she remembers long after you've gone silent. The man who walked away, not in weakness, but in mastery of himself. Remember this: real strength isn't loud. It's consistent. It doesn't beg for validation. It creates distance where respect is absent. And that's what makes you unforgettable. So if this message hits home, drop it into your own heart: I'm untouchable. Carry that truth. Live it. Because when you do, no disrespect can reach you again.